Ah, the cold weather survival pack used behind enemy lines. It's often forgotten gear, but it was crucial, truly life-saving for soldiers caught in the harshest conditions. You know, the most dangerous enemy in winter warfare wasn't the opposing army. It was the cold. It killed faster, quieter, and with absolutely no mercy whatsoever. Armies, well, they learned this the hard way, time and time again. By the early 20th century, especially during the World Wars, soldiers operating behind enemy lines carried something more valuable than extra ammunition. They carried a cold weather survival pack. Small, brutally practical, and designed for one purpose only: staying alive when rescue was not coming. This wasn't about comfort, no sir, it was survival science stripped down to the essentials. Why was cold the real battlefield threat? Well, cold weather doesn't just make life uncomfortable. It actually shuts the body down. Fingers lose dexterity first, then coordination fades away. Decision-making slows too. Hypothermia doesn't announce itself loudly. Instead, it creeps in while you're still moving, still thinking you're fine. Behind enemy lines, this danger multiplied. There were no fires that could be seen, no supply drops, and no medical backup. If cold stopped you, the mission ended, and often so did you. That reality shaped how these survival packs were built. Every item earned its place. Nothing was decorative. Nothing was wasted. Designed for stealth and independence. Unlike standard field kits, cold weather survival packs for covert operations were compact and, well, silent. Fabric didn't rustle. Metal parts were minimal or wrapped. Even the way items were packed mattered, because honestly, noise could be fatal. These packs were often issued to scouts, saboteurs, resistance fighters, and downed aircrew expected to evade capture. They had to move fast, stay hidden, and survive days or even weeks in hostile territory during winter. What made these packs special wasn't advanced technology. It was ruthless prioritization. Insulation that worked when wet was honestly a real game-changer. The core problem in cold environments is, well, moisture. Sweat, snow and condensation can turn warmth into a liability before you even realize it. Early survival packs, they leaned heavily on wool, oil-treated fabrics, and layered construction rather than just piling on bulky padding. Wool stayed warm even when damp, which is, you know, pretty remarkable. It didn't freeze into useless stiffness the way cotton did. Many packs included spare wool socks, sealed in wax paper or rubberized pouches to keep them dry. Changing socks wasn't just about comfort. No, it was about preventing frostbite and trench foot, both of which could end mobility permanently. Some packs also included thin, windproof overlayers. Not thick coats, but shells designed specifically to block airflow. In cold weather, stopping wind can actually matter more than just adding more insulation. Food that fed heat, not hunger. Calories equal heat. That was the equation. Cold weather survival rations weren't designed to feel filling. They were designed to burn hot. High-fat foods dominated these packs. Chocolate, compressed meat, pemmican-style bars and sugar cubes were common. Fat provided sustained energy, while sugar delivered quick heat when movement slowed. These foods also had another advantage. They could be eaten without cooking. Lighting a fire behind enemy lines was risky. In many cases, it was avoided entirely unless absolutely necessary. Some packs included a tiny alcohol stove or solid fuel tablets, but these were used sparingly. Often food was cold, hard, and eaten quickly. Survival didn't care about taste. Fire was included, but in a controlled way. Survival packs often carried multiple ignition methods. Waterproof matches sealed in metal tubes, flint and steel backups, sometimes chemical fire starters that burned hot and fast. The goal wasn't a roaring flame. It was a brief, efficient heat source. Enough to melt snow for water, warm hands just long enough to restore function, or dry socks before they froze solid. Here's the clever part. Many packs also included instructions or training on fire discipline. Fires were built low, shielded, and extinguished completely. Ashes were scattered. Evidence mattered. You couldn't carry a tent behind enemy lines, but you could carry options. Cold weather survival packs often included a compact ground sheet, sometimes rubberized or waxed, that served multiple purposes. It blocked moisture from the ground, reflected body heat, and doubled as camouflage or rain cover. Some kits included thin cordage or wire. Not much, really. Just enough to rig a lean-to, tie branches, or suspend a ground sheet into a windbreak. Shelter wasn't about standing height. It was about trapping warmth and blocking exposure. Snow itself became part of the shelter system. Trained soldiers used snow walls, shallow trenches, and natural terrain to create insulation. The pack supported the skill. It didn't replace it. Medical items focused on mobility. Medical gear in these packs was minimal and targeted. Bandages, antiseptic and painkillers were included, but the real focus was keeping hands and feet working. Foot care, honestly, mattered more than almost anything else. Blister treatment, antifungal powders and spare wrappings were, pretty common. A soldier who couldn't walk was a liability to himself and, anyone helping him. Some packs also included morphine syrettes or stimulants, depending on the era and doctrine. These were not comfort items. They were last resort tools to keep someone moving long enough to escape. Navigation when everything looks the same. Now that's a real challenge. Winter erases landmarks. Snow flattens terrain. Forests become repeating patterns of white and dark trunks. Cold weather survival packs often included compact compasses, sometimes with those luminous markings. Now, maps, they were treated or sealed to resist moisture, ensuring they remained useful in any condition. And, interestingly enough, some packs included grease pencils that could write even in freezing temperatures. Quite the clever setup, wouldn't you say? Here's the interesting part. Many soldiers were trained to navigate without maps at all if needed. They relied on the sun's position, wind patterns, and the feel of the terrain as survival skills. The pack was more like insurance, not a dependency. Quite resourceful, really. There's a quieter side to these kits, and that is morale. It's fascinating how personal items in cold weather survival packs played a role in keeping spirits up, isn't it? Some packs included tiny personal items, a photograph, a cigarette ration, a religious token. These weren't sentimental extras. They were psychological anchors. In extreme cold and isolation, mental resilience mattered as much as physical warmth. Survival wasn't just about not freezing, it was about not giving up. What this teaches us today is, well, modern gear is lighter, warmer, and more advanced. But the philosophy behind these cold weather survival packs still holds. All right, so let's talk about the fundamentals. Prioritize moisture control. Always choose calories that generate heat. Remember, treat shelter as insulation, not just as space. Protect your mobility at all costs, really. And, well, never rely on a single solution. The soldiers who carried these packs didn't survive just because they had more gear. They made it because every single item solved a real problem under, honestly, the worst conditions imaginable. That mindset, you know, is truly timeless. If you really want to understand survival, don't start with gadgets. Start with the people who had none to spare and somehow still made it home. If this story added something real to how you think about survival, I hope you'll stay with us. Subscribe to Legacy of Survival, like the video, and share it with someone who values history that, honestly, still works today. There are more forgotten lessons waiting, and, well, they're worth keeping alive.